welcome back to Muppets in Space, a Farscape rewatch podcast on the Incomparable. Tonight, we'll be covering the last two episodes of Season 2. Yes, it's the season finale episode. We'll be covering episodes 21, Liars, Guns, and Money, Part 3, Plan B, and the exciting, question mark, season finale, episode 22, Die Me Dichotomy. I'm your host, Eric Scott, and joining me as always is my fellow co-host, someone who loves it when a plan comes together, Jason Johnson.
You ain't gonna get me on no plane, Scorpius. Wait. Wrong show. Hi.
I pity the fool that hates Farscape.
There you go. A reference that's probably lost on a lot of people who weren't alive when Farscape was probably. Well, no, wait, that was way before Farscape. Anyway, moving on. Since I have no sense of time, let's roll.
Yeah, I watched a couple of episodes of A-Team recently on like one of those like second channel kind of things. You know, like was it Cozy TV or whatever, that kind of stuff. And yeah, it does not age well.
Well, so it's one of those shows where you almost have to not watch season one and don't watch any of the end seasons and just kind of skip to the middle.
Which always has surprised me how every time they get captured, they put them in like a barn that has old equipment and tools necessary to build like explosives and tanks. I'm like, what? But anyway, that's
Especially, plenty of welding equipment, because that seems to be the most important part.
exactly. And lots of metal tubes to make rocket launchers. Anyway,
And thank you for joining us for our A-Team Rewatch podcast here on the Incomparable Network.
that'll be our next podcast. Doing A-Team rewatch.
Be careful what you ask for, people. Be careful what you ask for.
So in 2 years from now, come back for the exciting kickoff of no, never. The A-Team.
Muppets in a Van. Oh, wait.
Yeah. Future sci-fi people. No, past and future sci-fi people. And Mr. T. Yeah. You can't go wrong with Mr. T. So
That's right.
all right, but we digress.
That's it. Take the entire show, keep Mr. T, replace everybody else with Muppets.
That would be interesting. Now I'm trying to think, was he ever on like a Muppet show? Or anyway, we digress as we sometimes do.
So what do we do?
All right. Anyway, back to the exciting season finale of season 2. We're halfway done after this, not counting the two-part Peacekeeper Wars miniseries. So, but yeah, 44 down, 44 to go, plus 2.
Seems like we just started.
Seems like yesterday. All right, so let's get into this because we got a extra recapping after all these two, so to go through. All right, so season 2, episode 21, Liars, Guns, and Money, part 3, Plan B, because Plan A wasn't so good. Back in the Shadow Depository, Scorpius tells Crichton that the neural clone drew him there, and back on Moya, Pilot plays a message from Crichton to everybody on Moya. He says that the chip is starting to take control, so he's gone to Scorpius to have it removed. He says that at least by exchanging himself for Jothi, he can do some good finally. Aaron points out how much Dargo misread him and quickly says this does not change anything. So instead of rescuing Jothi, they're now going to rescue Crichton instead. The mercenaries they grabbed last episode, at least the Zenitians, ask about the money, and Chan reminds them that, the money kind of got up and walked away last time.
It was burning a hole in their pocket.
Yeah, or Moya, depending. Zelkin, the leader of the Zenitians, says he understands, but since they now have no money, he'll just take Moya. Aaron kind of points out that you're an idiot. There's 30,000 containers on the depository filled with riches beyond your wildest dreams, and you'd rather point a gun at a girl, in this case Gianna. Jothi and Stark enter, and everybody suddenly grabs hold of somebody else and starts pointing guns at everybody. So Stark kind of goes a bit crazy, or actually normal, whatever, and says how Scorpius killed 10,000 of his people. Worf asks if he will act like this down on the depository, and when Stark says yeah, Worf agrees to go and rescue Crichton as long as he gets plenty of money, which Aaron says yes, they'll all get plenty of money. Suddenly, Pilot chimes in and says he detects an approaching ship. It's Talon. On the depository, Natira asks Scorpius why Crichton is so important and why he just can't take him away. Scorpius says that he must first soften Crichton's mind before removing the neural clone. Once that's done, then he'll take Crichton away on his command carrier. He says that the wormhole technology in Crichton's brain will sway the balance of power as we know it. Back on Moya, Pilot thanks Craze for allowing Talon to respond to his mother's distress signal. Talon is providing Moya with essential nutrients via a link between them to help stabilize and heal her. Aaron asks how long they'll stay, and Grace says in 2 hours there'll be nothing more Talon can do, and they'll leave. Aaron tells him of the plan to attack the depository, but Grace says he thought she didn't want to use Talon for violence. She says, well, yeah, but this is different. But Grace kind of rightly points out that there's always a reason for violence when it suits you. He thinks Crichton's already dead. Meanwhile, Stark is explaining the plan to everybody, but as always, they're totally confused. Later, Jotham is looking through Dargo's quarters when Dargo enters, apologizing for not speaking to him sooner. Jotham says it's okay. He doesn't know what to say either. Dargo asks him who cut his tankas, his, little tentacle things, and Jotham says he did. In a way, Dargo's done everything that ever happened to him. Jotham says he's interested in saving himself and won't help rescue Crichton. He's only just got his freedom back and he won't risk that now. Back on the depository, Scorpius goes into Crichton's mind, where Crichton is talking with the Scorpius clone when the real Scorpius shows up. He asks the clone if he's found the information, and when the clone says it was well hidden, but the chip is ready to be removed. The real Scorpius says he'll take Crichton on his carrier, and then paralyzes him. Aaron goes to Grace and says they're all going to die if he does not help, and says he can have anything he wants. Dargo, meanwhile, tells Jotham he was wrong to ask for his help, but Jotham says if it's Dargo's fight, then it's his fight too. Aww. Then the mercenaries come and talk to Dargo about the plan. Dargo says the plan is completely frelled, and they should use Moya as a distraction instead, and then storm the castle. I mean, the depository.
Do they have a Holocaust cloak?
Yeah, and they got set on fire too. So Aaron asks if they're all ready, and Selkin asks what happens if Crichton doesn't want to be rescued. She says, well, that's simple then. She'll put a bullet in his head and end it all. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Braca tells Scorpius that the carrier will arrive in 6 hours earlier than scheduled. Scorpius says he's always suspicious of good news and will remove the clone as soon as it arrives. As usual, his cooling rod overheats, so he orders the chamber to be locked down. Natira agrees but stays there and tells Crichton that she's never seen Scorpius worry about anyone before. Crichton tells her not to be jealous and invites her to look into his head and asks the clone just how Scorpius will kill her. Meanwhile, in another part of the depository, Worf and Bickish are there, waiting for Moya. Zan goes to Turak, the Sheyang, to ensure that he can produce flames. He's not having good luck with that, so he asks for some serum that will help him too, but that serum will also poison him. Meanwhile, Worf has found Crichton's location, but is attacked and captured by a guard. Scorpius and Acor question him, but he says he does not know Crichton and refuses to say why he's really there. Natera asks to take over the interrogation, and Scorpius says he should have listened to him. He was trying to save him. Natera says Worf has beautiful eyes, but Worf still won't speak. She, I guess, kind of sucks out one of his eyes, after which Worf is more than happy to tell him all about the plan.
As you do.
Yeah, as anybody probably would. Meanwhile, Dargo explains the new plan to everybody on Moya, and Pilot wishes them good luck. Scorpius begins a search, while Natera talks about the scenery to Crichton. She says he can get the chip out without being killed. She goes to take his soft blue eyes when Moya storms by, shattering the windows of the room. The transport from Moya leaves, and Aaron, Dargo, and Bekesh storm the entrance, killing the guards. Crichton, meanwhile, tells Natera that if she lets him go, he'll help her survive. Zan, Stark, and Turak enter the generator room, and she gives him a lethal dose of the serum. Aaron and Dargo and Bekesh finish all the guards at the entrance. Turak is still having problems producing flame when Scorpius and the guards arrive. He realizes that Turak's a Sheyang and can't shoot him because he'll just explode anyway. But knowing that, Turak commits suicide, blowing himself up along with the generator, which cuts power to the depository. Aaron, Dargo, and Bekesh enter the main area in the dark and kill the horde of guards waiting behind the door. Meanwhile, Natera ignores Scorpius' attempts at contact, and Crichton persuades her to go into his head. In there, the clone confirms that yes, Scorpius is planning to kill her. She says that she'll take the tranquilizer out of Crichton if he'll help her get away from Scorpius on Moya. The others finally get to the torture chamber to rescue Crichton, but Crichton's gone. Oops. Natera, Worf, and Crichton are escaping, but the clone is stopping him from leaving. The peacekeepers arrive and find the transport pod in the bay. They signal the Zenitians and strike a deal. On Moya, Zelkin puts a gun to Chiana's head and releases the flax, trapping the transport pod from escaping the planet. Meanwhile, Scorpius and team arrive, and Crichton shoots Acor. Crichton won't leave, though, and can't shoot Scorpius, so Natera runs off. Worf unfortunately gets killed, as Dargo, Aaron, and Bekesh appear. Zan, meanwhile, can't get through to Rigel, but Krace answers her instead. Talon has destroyed the Zenitian ship, disabling the flax, and Chiana, in a scuffle, shoots Zelkin. Aaron tells Rigel to go pick up Stark, Zan, and them, while Talon is finished. She tells Crace to target her comm and destroy the depository. Crichton says he's going to Scorpius, but Aaron says frell that and knocks him out, and they carry him away. Rigel's on his way to pick up Zan and Stark as the others enter the container. The transport pod picks up Zan and Stark as Aaron, Bakesh, Dargo, and Crichton lock the container. With Scorpius approaching the container, Talon fires and the whole depository goes down. And back on Moya, Rigel celebrates the money that was looted from the container, money that won't eat the ship. Hopefully. However, Chiana, Zan, and Stark sadly remind him that it was not without cost. Moya is still suffering from her burns and may never recover. Worf and Turak are dead, but Bakesh says that he'll ensure that their families get their share and thanks the crew for teaching him how to kill again. Aw, isn't it nice?
So no good deed.
Yeah. See, old dog, new tricks. Meanwhile, Aaron thanks Crace for returning as he saved their lives. He says he did nothing. Talon returned of his own accord, and despite what they want, he has a warrior's instincts. He then asks her how Crichton is. We cut to Crichton, who's seemingly going crazy playing one of Rigel's games, when Dargo brings Jothi to see him and thank him. Crichton says he's here, and he blames him for killing Scorpius, and he's been trying to do it. Dargo holds Crichton's face and asks what he's been trying to do. When Crichton says, Dargo, kill me. Please kill me. The end. Question mark. Some trivia about this episode. Crichton makes numerous references to young Frankenstein in this episode. During filming, Claudia Black received a blow to the face from John Adams' gauntlet during the bank raid scene because it was so dark on the set. I guess night vision is just for special effects, not for real people on the set. Anthony Simcoe was thrilled to receive his big gun, which Claudia Black referred to as his new toy. The gun was promptly nicknamed Mr. Sparky. And this is the first episode in which Crace and Pilot, both are played by the same actor, Lanny Tupu, have an exchange of dialogue. So that's kind of cute. All right, so that was our exciting conclusion to Liars, Guns, and Money. What did you think, Jason?
As we've been pretty clear on, I think on several other episodes, we really tend to enjoy these multi-parters, and I don't think this was an exception. I think they nailed a lot of the character beats. I think that they had good action. It was a good conclusion to the trilogy, and I think they're obviously going to end the season on a high note, right?
Of course, because you can only go up from here, right? Foreshadowing for the next episode, sort of, kind of. But yeah, this was nice action scenes, comedy, is the typical Farscape comedy, great action, good effects. But yeah, so I guess the opening scene where Crichton is being talked to, questioned, interrogated, whatever you want to call it. So I guess we lost the comfy Aurora chair when the Gamma base was destroyed, and I guess there's no spare one. So now they've replaced it with the not so comfy large metal sphere. That's an interesting way to, I guess, restrain somebody.
Yeah, I take it they don't have chiropractors in this part of space because that did not look OSHA approved or healthy for anybody's alignment. But maybe that's part of the softening process to get the. I don't know how throwing your back out helps your brain soften, but that was what Scorpius was after, I guess.
Yeah, because that did not look pleasant, even as a prop on a set. Because Ben's like, basically bent over backwards on this thing, and I can imagine that. Yeah, you have to get him on there first. You gotta get the lighting set up fine. You gotta do the sound check. You gotta do all this stuff, and then a couple takes, whatever. So I can't imagine he was really happy for that.
No,
Maybe hour or two, or however long he's been stuck on that thing.
Yeah, you imagine having to call for a bathroom break. I got to get off this thing.
Yeah, someone come untie me because my back's killing me and I really gotta go. Yeah. So. And then we have our kind of fun, also beginning scene on Moya where I think they've done this a couple times before, where something happens and everybody starts pointing guns at each other and waving around like who's gonna shoot who first, and then Aaron and Stark, being his crazy or normal self, having to convince everybody to kind of back down and back off, and we're here for Crichton, right? Everybody's happy, right?
Yeah, that scenario always makes for a good scene, right? I mean, you get the comedy slash tenseness of a standoff, and they're pretty good at it. But it does make you question why we're letting these people walk around with guns. It seems like maybe this crew is not mentally equipped. But anyway, it makes for a fun scene.
Yeah, and of course, you can't disarm your mercenaries because the one guy is basically a walking rifle. And he's got the gauntlet on his hands. He can't do anything to him. And then all the pirates, you're not gonna. They're pirates. Come on, they're gonna have guns on them. And I guess a kind of another callback from last episode. I I found it odd but funny that Rigel is now carrying Durka's head around on a stick and it's like waving around and talking to it. It kind of reminds me of Jeff Dunham, the ventriloquist, one of his characters, like Jose Jalapeno, who's a jalapeno on a stick. So Durka on a stick.
Yeah. First off, reference acknowledged. I thought that was. I didn't make that connection, but that's perfect. It is kind of dark, and I was not prepared for Rydell to walk in with a Durka on a stick. I mean, that was just they got me with that one. I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, and it wasn't like a one-off thing. He kept doing it throughout the throughout the show up until I guess
No, it was
he had to leave to go on the mission. But up until that point, he's walking around talking to him and waving around.
maybe that's not the last we've seen of it. Right? He'll just kind of keep it up in his quarters somewhere.
Uh, that might start smelling. I don't know. Or
I'm sure they could treat it with something. It's Farscape. They'll figure it out.
yeah, you put some like shellac on there or something, some clear
That's
coat,
right.
whatever. It'll be fine. Put it in the fridge between,
Between comedy bits,
yeah,
his little stage show he travels around with. Anyway,
yeah, right. And I guess on keeping with the other nice stuff about this episode, I love the scenes with Aaron and Craze. Aaron's really, I guess, come out of her peacekeeper military enforcer kind of shell. Like she's really using her like diplomacy skills. I won't say finally, but she's starting to do more diplomacy versus brute force and coercion. And of course, I love Crace's answer when she asked to use Talon to help free Crichton. It's like there's always a reason for violence when it suits you. Hey, check that out. Bylar Crace, unlucky voice of reason.
yeah. Talk about shedding your peacekeeper personality. I guess it's this episode. Crace almost seemed out of character to me. He was so helpful, non-antagonistic. So it'll be interesting to see if they continue down this path with him in future episodes, or if kind of it's a one-off and they go back to the antagonistic Crace at a future point.
Yeah, because I guess him saying that Talon, like it was Talon's decision to come back and help versus him. So it was either just like, okay, fine, I can't go against the ship, I'll just deal with it. But that was after the fact. This was before.
Right. This was them
So
helping. So yeah.
yeah, so it's like, is he playing an angle? And we'll talk about it in a minute too. Another thing that happened, but yeah, it's like, or maybe it was next episode. But anyway, but yeah, is he playing something? Is he again have his long game that he's playing them out or something? But yeah, so we'll see. But it's interesting. He's done like yeah, almost a complete 180, or maybe like a 135 maybe. You know,
Yeah, not quite, but
yeah,
more than you'd expect, right? I mean, this was not the character we expected from season one.
right. And of course, Stark has yet another completely comprehensible, totally perfect. Everybody follows it. No, of course not. It's a completely complicated plan that no one has a clue what the hell's going on. So, he keeps saying it's a silent count over and over again, and they're looking at each other like, "What are you talking about? I'm supposed to count while I'm being shot at? What? Huh?" Which, granted, some of the mercenaries aren't the sharpest tools in the shed, nor have they really worked together before. So, yeah, you're not gonna have that finely oiled machine of teamwork and silent counts and it's like, why not just use the encrypted comms that you did before, right? And of course, in the end, Dargo's like, nah, screw it. Frontal assault. That's what we do best. Let's just do that.
So my question is, why is anyone listening to Stark at all anymore? I mean, the guy's obviously crazier than Crichton with the Scorpio chip. I mean, while I'm enjoying this insane version of Stark, or maybe again, I had different impressions of Stark from the first time we met him, and thought he was some, almost a Zan-like creature. And I feel like every time he trots out now, he's just a little more off than he was before. So it's very interesting and enjoyable. It's yeah. Don't listen to the crazy guy.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much his crazy is the normal for him. There is no, yeah, like he started out kind of, I won't say lucid. Well, even that maybe. Even though he was tortured for 2 years, he still made a lot of sense the first time we saw him. Ever since then, he's gone off the rails more and more. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He now, to be fair, he did get dispersed in there somewhere, so there was that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess he did do the Obi-Wan, feel the pain of 10,000 voices crying out suddenly, so okay, he's probably a little upset. Maybe that made him a little more discombobulated. I don't know, but yeah, he's really struggling to keep any kind of shred of sanity at this point. I don't know
Yeah,
which.
he's definitely not bobulated.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like who's fighting for who to be more crazy, him or Crichton? It's like yeah. And then we get to all the good action bits of this episode, which is what a good half of it probably. We got some nice combat scenes when they storm the front entrance, and Dargo stops using his Qualta blade, I guess because it runs out of charge or ammunition, whatever you want to call it, and gets the Mr. Sparky BFG. So-
Yeah, so funny note there. I actually thought Jotham was fixing to turn sides on him or something here, and I thought he'd sabotaged the Qualta blade because they made a big deal about the Qualta blade, him holding the Qualta blade earlier in the shows. Anyway, obviously I was wrong, but it was an interesting thing that I thought maybe he was the sabotage there.
yeah, because we still don't really know where he's at either. Yeah, and then they've managed to insert some Farscape comedy by having Aaron's night vision not work exactly properly, so kind of like the fading in and out, or like taking like snapshots and like almost like a bad strobe light kind of thing but yet she manages to kill all the guards. So so who's worse, peacekeepers or stormtroopers for shooting?
So, given that Aaron was a peacekeeper, I would say stormtroopers. But if you look at these blaster marks, they're way too accurate for sand people. So I'm guessing that sand people are worse shots because there were shots in stormtroopers, and stormtroopers are, Anyway, yeah, sand
Yeah,
people. My answer is
yeah.
sand people.
Can't hit the broadside of a sandcrawler. Yeah, that's pretty much
Yeah,
it.
there you go.
But yeah, it's just funny how it's like after it's all done, she's like, let's come on, they're all dead. She's like, oh. So it's kind of fun. And despite all that, they finally get to where Crichton is, and he's gone, and the neural clone too. So it's kind of funny that Crichton, meanwhile, is doing his own way of escaping. He's pretty much conned, or not conned, basically flat out told Natira, hey, help me escape, because otherwise Scorpius is going to kill you, right? And if you don't believe me, go ask him. Or
Yeah.
actually ask the fake one, but still.
And that worked out real well for her, I'm sure.
Yeah, because she went, after Crichton lost it and couldn't kill Scorpius, she ran away somewhere. So, like, we didn't see her again, did we? So, did she
No.
escape? Did she get, when the depository fell, the big tower fell down, did she get, who knows, right? So, it's sci-fi. You don't see the body, so
I thought both
maybe.
her and Scorpy were going to be dead, but as we'll, spoiler for 3 minutes from now, Scorpy's back. So I guess maybe she could be out there somewhere too.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a shame to waste that amazing costume slash body armor thing they made for her. So, you paid the money, you gotta use it again.
That's right.
And I didn't quite expect this, but pretty much every mercenary they hired was killed, except for Beckish. So that was kind of surprising. And also surprising that he does have some kind of honor and says he will give the families their share of the payment. Take him for his word. I'm guessing he will. Rorg is pregnant, so that'll help her and the baby get along. I don't know how he's going to find any other Sheyang to give some money to, but hey, what the heck, right? So
It was definitely a regular cleanup of the NPC characters, right? We get to start over with a clean slate of new allies. They're going to have to go out and forge because we killed off all the other ones.
yeah, and you can't kill off the main crew, right? I mean, that'd be stupid to kill somebody from the crew. I mean, so you got plenty of these extra guys. Yeah, well,
Yeah, I'm sure we'll go into the next season with everybody in good health.
yeah. I mean, no one kills off main characters back in the early 2000s of a TV show. No one does that.
Nope, nope.
And the big final conclusion, the neural chip is pretty much taken over Crichton completely. That last scene where he's fumbling around and he's lost it, and then like he's begging Dargo to kill him because he can't kill himself. I mean, that was like, man, wow. That was some amazing acting. I really felt, for Crichton at that point.
And I'm sure him asking for somebody to kill him won't come up in the next episode, given the title, right? I mean, I'm sure we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, because it's time to get the chip out, right? So what could possibly happen? Everything should be just perfect. It's Farscape. Things go according to plan, and things just happen perfectly all the time.
Right.
Yeah. And if you believe that, yeah, we're done with the podcast. Good night.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
We'll stop right there. Everybody lives happily ever. All right. No, wait. One more to go. So let's jump into season 2, episode 22. Die Me Dichotomy. So we start off with Rigel going to give Zan her spoils from the Shadow Depository when she suddenly lashes out at him because he's thinking about money when they burn Moya. He tells her that they're all taking a few bits and they're using the rest to pay for any fee to a healer, located by Crace and Talon, who can help Moya. She then apologizes for misjudging him. Crichton, meanwhile, is seeing visions of Scorpius in a mirror and smashes it repeatedly with his fist. Aaron comes in to calm him down and reminds him that he must fight it. They're going to see if the surgeon can remove the chip, and she tells him that he must be strong, that there's no Scorpius here. He agrees, but we see him morph back and forth between himself and himself as Scorpius. The diagnosin and his assistant Grunchuk are assessing the damage to Moya, and Grunchuk says that it looks good. They should be able to help. Aaron asks how much it will cost, and Grunchuk says 12,000 kretmas, which they say is outrageous. Grunchuk then pushes the price up to 15,000. Chiana asks why the diagnosin wears a mask, and Grunchuk explains that he gets diseases through inhalation. Any bacteria can get into his nose and mouth simultaneously, which would kill him.
And I'm sure that will never come up ever again. So
No. Definitely not a Chekhov's bacteria. Rigel attempts to have a word with Crichton, but he hits Rigel in the face, and again we see the image of Scorpius Crichton. Dargo is talking to Jothi, and Aaron tells Rigel that she'll take care of Crichton. Dargo wants Jothi to have his Tinkas restored, but he mutilated himself because of his hatred for his father. Chiana comes to talk, and Dargo snaps before leaving upset. Grunchuk is again raised the price, and it's now 20,000, so Zan and Stark are forced to agree to it.
yeah, I mean, you better pay it now because pretty soon you're going to run out of money from your big score last time.
Yeah, probably should have agreed at 12, don't you think?
Yeah, right. 12, great, do it.
Crichton is reconfiguring a comm outside of pilot's control. He says it's to eavesdrop on Crace, and says that the Scorpius in his head is under house arrest. Aaron wants him to stop, but he says that as long as he stays busy, the Scorpius clone leaves him alone. Aaron says that the diagnosin will look at him after Moya's healed, and reminds him of the word hope, which he brought to this ship. He says that he'd be lost without her. She's worked her way into his heart. They both say, "I love you," when Scorpius Crichton whacks her head against the wall, knocking her unconscious.
How rude.
Yeah, tough love. Crace is telling Talon that Aaron cannot be blackmailed. If she is to join them, it'll have to be of her own choosing. He says that if she joins them freely, they'll tell her the truth. Talon detects a signal, a special pulse code known only by Peacekeeper captains and above. Jothi goes to stop Crichton, who's sending the signal, and tries to tongue lash him, but Scorpius Crichton catches his tongue and throws him against the wall. Dargo enters and tongue lashes him from behind, successfully. Down on the planet, Stark and Crace come to support Crichton, while the diagnosin sees what he can do. He looks at Crichton's brain, which is covered in black tendrils, the neural clone. Grunchuk says the doctor doesn't know what he can do. He doesn't think he can remove it without killing him. Meanwhile, Dargo goes to help Stark numb Moya and again snaps at Chiana. Aaron and Crichton are looking at bodies stored by Tokat. Crichton asks if he said anything to piss her off, but she asks if he's serious. They are interrupted by Zan and Grunchuk, who says he thinks he's found a match for Crichton. Zan says it's an abomination against nature. The specimens are actually still alive. Grunchuk responds that they are frozen a microt before death. None of them would survive restoration. Crichton asks if it's possible that they're near Earth, to which she replies she does not know. Dargo and Stark are dopey from the anesthetic which they use to numb Moya, while Chiana and Jothi are in Pilot's den. Jothi says that Dargo wants to use his money to settle down and live on a farm, but he says he wants to live loudly. Chiana says that she supposes he meant just him and Jothi when a high pilot shows a DRD recording of Dargo prating his proposal to Chiana. Rigel and Grunchuk are eating when Aaron enters and asks how long it'll be before they start Crichton's surgery. Grunchuk says it'll take about eight arms. The doctor wants to supervise the healing of Moya first. Rigel tells her to leave as he talks to Grunchuk about securing passage off of Moya, since she won't be able to starburst for a while. Crichton asks Zan to join him in Unity so that he can show her what he wants to say to his friends and family should he die. She goes to initiate Unity, but Scorpius Crichton grabs her in a mental leak, saying that the 12th level Pyo could break the bond, but she's only a 10. Meanwhile, Crace asks Aaron what her next move is since Crichton could die here and the others are talking about what to do next. She says that he must have a suggestion. He says Talon needs guidance and has chosen her and that he agrees with that decision. Before she can answer, Talon informs Crace that Crichton has left Moya in his module. Crichton tells Aaron not to come after him since he's not in control. Crace says that he's broadcasting their location to Scorpius and that he must be stopped. Aaron thanks Crace for his offer, then goes after Crichton. Crace gets Talon to block the transmission as best he can. Aaron addresses the chip in Crichton's head since he's clearly not in control. He says that she won't kill him because if she fires, she'll miss. Zan is in pain on Moya, telling Stark that Crichton is gone. His body is filled with horrific evil. Crichton's taken his ship into the atmosphere where he has had more flight experience. Dargo reminds Aaron that Crichton has said he'd rather die than go to Scorpius, so she cannot hesitate. She said, "Why should you?" And he says because in their positions were reversed, he would. Scorpius Crichton loses her by flying through some canyons, and when she comes out, he appears flying above her. She tries to plead with Crichton, but Scorpius Crichton says she doesn't realize the extent of Crichton's misery. She says that he must recognize she is the superior pilot, to which he agrees, and she tells him to land. Scorpius Crichton says he has no alternative and proceeds to attempt to land on top of her prowler, smashing through it with the landing gears. She announces that she's under attack and is forced to eject. Her prowler crashes and explodes, but the descent brakes in her ejection seat auto-ignite, so she initially appears to be out of danger. Scorpius Crichton informs her that she's not over land, but rather over a frozen lake. Crace implores her to get free, however she can't as her harness was jammed in the crash. She has nothing to break it with and can't divert her landing either. As Scorpius Crichton starts to gloat, John takes control, saying that she has to get out of the seat. However, Aaron confirms that she has no way to get free. She says all of her options are gone, and she hopes that Crichton meant what he said in the neural cluster, because she did. As the others on Moya listen on and Crichton watches in horror at what he's done, she crashes into the lake, resurfacing only long enough to call Crichton's name before falling back under the water, where she drowns. We cut to Aaron's funeral performed by Zan as the crew pay their respects. Dargo gives her his Qualta blade, and Rigel gives her his medallion, saying she is more worthy of it than he, and asks her to be at peace. Zan finishes her prayer as Crichton goes to her and asks Dargo for his knife. Reluctantly, he hands it to him, and Crichton leans over, asking for her forgiveness, and says he loves her. He kisses her and cuts a lock of her hair, and then says he's ready. They diagnose and tells Crichton he's not responsible for Aaron's death, but Crichton says he is. Grunchuk explains that the doctor is going to cut the tendrils and then remove the chip, but since they have no map of what functions are in what part of the human brain, they diagnose and will probe his brain, and Crichton must tell him what memories he wants to keep. On Talon, an upset Crace says he too would have liked to have shown Aaron the information on the chip he has, as he thinks it would have made her the happiest soul among them. Zan is comforting Pilot when Stark tells her that everyone is moving on and asks what she will do. She says her concern is for Pilot and Moya now, and Stark asks to share the future with her. The surgery continues with Crichton telling Tokat what memories to keep. He says to get rid of American politics, but to keep the memories of his dogs if possible. Meanwhile, Grunchuk tells Rigel that his ship will be here shortly. He says that it's too bad about Aaron, and Rigel, in a humble tone, says yes, but that's life. The doctor asks Crichton about the memories of Aaron, but we don't hear his answer. Jothi is apparently preparing to leave and saying goodbye to Chiana. As they're about to kiss...
What? Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute.
As they're about to kiss, Dargo comes in and says that they should stay close. Sounds like they were.
Yeah. Hey.
Meanwhile, Tokat finds the wormhole memories as suddenly a horde of peacekeepers storm the building. The doctor says that Crichton's speech is close to the implant, so he'll have to take it out and then attempt to restore Crichton's speech. He removes the chip and shows it to Crichton, who is now reduced to talking unintelligible gibberish. We see Aaron in one of the storage containers when Lieutenant Brekka sees Grunchuk hiding in one. Tokat is about to restore Crichton's speech when Scorpius walks into the operating room. He greets the doctor and says his cooling apparatus is as functional as the day Tokat installed it.
What?
Declaring Tokat's usefulness to be at an end, he then removes the doctor's mask and breathes on him, causing the diagnosing to fall to the ground, motionless.
Aha. See? It did come.
It did come back.
Chekhov's bad breath. I don't know.
Halitosis. He tells Crichton that there's so much to say, but so little time. He takes the chip and says he hopes all this work was worth it. He condemns Crichton to live, so that his thirst for unfulfilled vengeance will consume him. With that, he says goodbye and walks out, leaving Crichton with his brains exposed and unable to speak, screaming in agony. To be continued. A little trivia about this episode: David Kemper knew the final image of the season at mid year and worked backwards to reach it. The makeup and performance of Scorpius John were so good the producers couldn't tell the difference. Because of this, the makeup was made less accurate to keep the difference clear. The shot of Aaron ejecting out of the Prowler was done overnight by one of the CG artists who knew what was needed for the episode. The producers knew that there would be a third season and set up a cliffhanger to be resolved early in that season. O'Bannon said, "We pretty much knew, in terms of rating and appeal, that there would be a third season. We came from nobody knowing we existed to the fan base starting to gel at the end of season 2. The only thing that was always a variable was the financing for it. Farscape was a very expensive show, but that notwithstanding, you always assume that if something's working and is successful, the money will be found." And finally, the gibberish uttered by John after the surgery was not random utterances, but was scripted. So, what'd you think of this one, Eric?
Yeah, as we kind of hinted at obliquely before, this episode kind of frustrated me to some degree. There were good bits, the healer and his negotiator who keeps, ramping up the price every time and will do just about anything for money. That's always fun. Scorpius John was fantastic, both visually and when Crichton was kind of talking like Scorpius at times. Which I guess led to the producers trying to change up a bit so they wouldn't get too confused. And then, of course, the ending with the neural chip finally being removed, but then, of course, stolen by Scorpius because, hey, why not? And leaving John kind of really in the horrible place on the table with like his brain, half his head open and not being able to talk. Most everything else was, for some reason, really annoying and just frustrating. I mean, I guess a couple things, because John's already done things to fool them before as he's not himself, but they keep falling for it. Kind of annoyed me. And what really made me mad was what is going on with Jothi and Shanna? Where did that come from? I there's there was no hint of that. It just came out of nowhere and it just made me really, really mad. I don't know why, but what do you think about it?
So, yeah, I definitely agree with you on the Jothi China. I'm hesitating to say the word plot, but okay. That, as we may discuss in a little bit more, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't know what they were doing. It was, anyway. Yeah, that really didn't click for me. The rest of it on first watch, I didn't mind as much. But as we've talked and you know pointed out some stuff, I am not so sure I can stand with that line of reasoning. And we'll dig into it as we go. I will say that I did agree with you that I don't understand why he wasn't restrained and more secured the whole time. I mean, they just watched a video he left them talking about how he was turning himself in because of what the chip was doing to them. And then they just forgot all that.
Yeah, and we'll get more into that, but let's at least start out on a happy note. So, the episode starts off on a good note. Rigel, surprisingly, not being as greedy as people think he is, even though Zan thought that he's going to use all that money for himself. He's like, no, we got a healer to help Moya. We're going to use all this money for her, and we'll just take, a nice bit to keep for ourselves. Although, then, of course, he ruins that later by doing his usual thing of wanting to leave Moya when things get tough. So again, it was nice, but slightly annoying. So,
Yeah. So the start, I agree, it was great. He stayed in character by wanting to keep some of the money, and but yet was showing some growth. The leaving part, I didn't really understand why that was needed. Again, you've got the crew kind of seemingly abandoning each other, which doesn't fit with where the growth we've had. But it also doesn't happen, so it's kind of like this odd plot point that they just toss in there.
yeah, because this happened like he bribed Grunchald with, I guess, some of the gems he kept before Crichton was, foobarred and, Aaron was dead. So it's like he already had planned to get away, or whether it's temporary, maybe it's temporary, who knows? But yeah, like okay, fine, whatever.
It was almost like they wanted a Rigel scene, and that was all they could come up with to throw him into this episode, right? Because that's really all he does in this episode. So
Hmm. And I guess kind of getting back to the stuff that I didn't quite like. Although, don't get me wrong, the first couple of times Scorpius John pulls one over was good to a point. After all, it does know what's in John's mind, 'cause it's been hanging around there for I don't know how many months now, or who knows, cycles. Not cycles, that's years, but it's been a while. So of course it's going to use his knowledge and ways to manipulate the crew to escape. So okay, the first time, great. He's acting like, oh yes, Aaron, I love you too, and oh, everything's just great, wonderful, and then knocks her out. Okay, fine. That was the first time, so fine. I'll give him that one. Even the second time when he gets Zan to do Unity, so somehow he can make her go comatose or something, so that she can escape. Okay, that was cool. I'll give him that one. The third one we'll get to later, no. But these first two, okay, fine. I can buy it.
yeah, the Aaron scene made me really feel bad for Aaron. That was probably I would say, I mean, this episode has a funeral, so it's tough to say that this was the most impactful scene, but I think it probably was to me. They both finally have a chance to share their feelings for each other again. We really haven't had that, I don't think, since what was the episode where they were not really in Earth, but they thought they were anyway. And then it turns out that wasn't even really John; it was Scorpy John. So that just made it worse.
Yeah, because while it's true, they haven't actually said it. So yeah, it's like, is it really?
They have
It's still true, but it's under false pretenses, right? So it's
Yeah,
kind of yeah,
and they haven't both said it at the same time. Is what I guess where I was going, right?
right, yeah.
So and that's still true because it wasn't really John. So
And then we get to the part I think really set me off, so to speak, was like the final time he pulls one over on them. So you
so
know,
you're saying we should just land the plane here?
yeah, haha. That's the problem. I hate it. Yeah, so the her chasing him through the ice, canyons because hey, why not? That's what you do when you're on a planet. So that's great. But at the end, why was she just flying right under him the whole time and just let him crash into her? I mean, that made no sense to me. Now, I get it where, he's coming out of the sun, so maybe she couldn't see him, but I mean, come on, these are spaceships with sensors, radar, lidar, whatever. So no, I don't buy that one. She's not that stupid. And her dying, come on. We know she's not dead. The Aaron Crichton relationship is one of the core things in this whole show. So that was just like a waste of a quarter of the episode, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I'll definitely agree with you here. And this is one of the places where, as we've talked about it, I think you've changed my mind on a lot of the episode because we've established she's the better pilot. And even if Scorpy John is better than she is, she's not that bad of a pilot. And she basically turns into I don't know, a rookie here at this point for not, maybe it was the fact that she didn't want to hurt Crichton, but like you say, she stayed in a bad spot and let him land on top of her. As far as the funeral goes, I will mention I honestly was expecting it to be a head fake, right? Like I thought we were gonna have this whole setup, especially when Dargo tucked in the Qualta blade, right? I was like, oh, this is not really happening, and this is in John's head or something as they're taking the chip out, and yeah, they got me because I guess it's real. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, as we'll find out when we get to season three, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, yeah, there's tons of ways you can, and they will, get around this. It was a cold lake, so probably hypothermia, or she maybe put her in a little state, temporary stasis or whatever. This doctor Diagnosion creature, they freeze people right before they're dead to use them later. So yeah, that's the easy way out. So yeah, I mean, you know where it's going. It was just it didn't really had any tension because it's like yeah, it's not really, but oh well, it is what it is. And and also because we do get some mystery for a future plot line. Krace has some chip he wants to give Aaron that's got something important on it that we don't know what it is that will make her the happiest soul among them. So A, she's not dead because otherwise why drop that nugget out there if it's useless, right? So that's not gonna happen. And B, that was kind of cool. So like we said before, he's kind of done a 180 or almost a 180 from the as the opening credits go, the insane military commander that's hunting him, right? So he's really progressed in the last two seasons from where he was when he started.
Yeah, I still don't trust Crace, but maybe I'm not supposed to, or maybe I'm just holding a grudge. I'm not really sure. We'll find out, I guess.
Yeah, because it's like too good to be true. Like he's got some angle, because otherwise why would he bother, right? It's not just
Exactly.
because Talon wants another person to help him with stuff. It's like there's something there he's got that he's going to use probably, just because he might be mostly good now, but that's the mostly part. There's still something there that's not, so we'll
Yep.
see. But back to fun things. So we kind of go back and forth here. So back to things I liked. The surgery scenes with Crichton were funny. It's the typical Farscape stuff. It was kind of funny how they had no idea how a human brain works, so they don't know what's tied to what. So it's like what this do, and it's like they flash back to something of which memories he wants to keep. So he's like oh, those are my dogs. Please keep those if you can. What's this? Oh, that's 70s and 80s American politics. You can lose that. That's fine.
Yeah. And we get the neat spot where they find his memories of Aaron, and the questions, they leave it up in the air whether he decides to keep it or cut it. Does he want to live with the pain, or but no, does he want to keep the good memories? That was a nice Farscape touch too.
hmm Yeah, it gives you a little dramatic tension too for next time when hopefully he does regain his memory and speech and whatever. We'll see.
Or he could just do the next 2 seasons. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, yeah. Talk gibberish that can't be translated by the translator microbes for the next 2 seasons. Good luck. Yeah. And then we, surprisingly out of the blue, learn that Dargo has prepared a marriage proposal for Gianna. So that actually surprised me because given the tension in the last couple episodes, including I think it was this one
Yep.
too, that yeah, so that was kind of out of
Eh,
nowhere.
but I'll put that in the good column.
Mhm.
I like the idea. That's
Yeah,
positive. Yeah. So surely they can't mess that up.
yeah, because they were really happy when they first met each other and had all the sex, all the stuff before. They're really having a
No,
good time. It's great, wonderful.
I'm sorry. I should say I don't think the writers could mess that up, right? I mean, we're doing
Yeah,
good.
and then sorry folks for going back to what I hated. Then suddenly Chiana and Jotham are almost making out. Like what what the frell? What are you doing? This came out of nowhere. I think. I mean, I didn't see anything up to this point where they're like giving each other like the coy side eye and the checking each other up and down or something like that. So suddenly I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. This one was almost. It was definitely my least favorite part of the episode. I will say that right up front. It's like they were wanting. It was like a last minute idea. Oh, we want to do this for the cliffhanger for the season. Get this into the final instead of spending time setting it up. I mean, I'm with you. I didn't see it coming. We have no real understanding of it from Chiana, right? She doesn't. They don't do the homework. They don't build the relationship. They don't have any tension. They don't have any indicators. She's only known Jotham other than Dargo's picture, and their closeness should have had her siding with him. And all of a sudden, yeah,
Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, because yeah, I don't know if they had to cut like a scene or something, or they maybe set something up, or but I don't even know how you could. But
yeah.
I
Again,
would take that over just what they left it with. But
well, and again, we're lingering on a bad point here, probably more than we should. But I would have this could have been something that instead of if they hadn't had that little bit in this episode, and they wanted to do it, you could spend the first half of next season setting it up in the background, right? Like you say, the looks, the sending them on a mission together, or having them talk because her and Dargo are fighting, or he and Dargo are struggling. You could put in the work and spend the time building it up, and then it means something when it could be the mid-season cliffhanger or something. Here it's unearned.
Mhm. All right, so enough of the bad stuff. We'll do
Yep, walk it away.
one more fun Farscapey thing, which I loved about this episode. The final scenes, the healer finally gets the chip out, and of course, Crichton's a gibbering wreck. So, and of course, because it's their seed ending cliffhanger, of course, who shows up? Scorpius, because you have to, right? And we do learn some more good little Farscape nuggets. The healer, I guess, came up with that cooling rod in the head thing. So thank you for that gross visual, but hey, good job. And of course, Chekhov's halitosis, like you called it. Scorpius takes off the diagnosis mask, breathes on him, and seemingly killing him, or not. We don't know. He, no one said, "Oh, he's dead," so you never know.
Oh, they need another doctor.
Yeah. And of course, the fun part where Scorpius just taunts Crichton, it's like, "I will leave you here to suffer."
To the pain. Oh wait,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. So yeah, leaves Crichton a gibbering wreck, and leaves. It's like, good luck, see ya.
Yeah. Again, they knew they had another season, and or expected they had another season, and they did a good job leaving us hanging. Right, this is a great. Just despite our qualms with the episode, this was a great cliffhanger setup to get us into the next season. So, bravo.
Yes, I'm glad they. Well, I don't know how firm they knew they had the third season, but I'm glad they did because otherwise this has been a really bad place to leave the series if if this
Oh
was it.
yeah, yeah. And I know you said we're done with the bad, so don't count this as a bad. This is just a thought, I guess. I'll leave it with on this episode, and that's my lingering question about the chip.
Hmm.
So we've got a Scorpius in John's head,
Hmm.
and it is basically taking almost full control of him at this point. If it has full control of his body, it was intelligent enough to tell Natira the real Scorpio would kill her, then I find it interesting. It doesn't have any self-preservation to keep it from losing its body and just being taken out as a storage device. Now it's just a hard drive. It could have just left and kept John's body.
Yeah, good point.
Hmm.
Although if
Again,
it, although maybe it's like the that like base programming, like the three laws of neural chips, whatever. It's like he has to obey the programmer. So I don't know, but
yeah, and that's probably it. It just that was my lingering thought was what if if I were a robot AI stuck in somebody's head and I got control of their body, would I want to be taken out?
yeah. Although who knows, right? We don't know. Scorpius walked away with the chip, but now he's got to plug it in somewhere or do something to try and get the information out. So maybe Neural Scorpio doesn't want to give it up. Maybe if he likes being alive, maybe he'll resist. Who knows? It could be a
Now
whole nother book.
I'm picturing like an Arnhem Zola when he plugs it into the console and you have this Scorpio AI inside of it. Anyway, yeah.
Little bad 8-bit Scorpio on the
Mm-hmm.
screen. Yeah. All right, so let's wrap up these two because we got to wrap up a whole season here in a minute. So overall, I guess this is a good 1.5 episodes. Obviously, the one being Liars, Guns, and Money trilogy. They bring home the third act of that one. It was pretty tightly scripted. Great action, great acting, especially by Ben at the end there, like flipping out. The finale, as you can probably figure out, about half a good episode. The whole middle or next to ending act with the whole John Aaron thing and Aaron's funeral weren't necessary, in my opinion, and just a waste of what they could have done, possibly. And of course, the whole Jothe and Chiana thing just made me really mad. But everything else, great, and it sets up a wonderful, hopefully, season three.
Yeah. So you won me over. I'll say by the end of the discussion, I was less enthused, and I think I've said enough on the last one, so we'll just leave it where it is. But I will say that I really think they seem to be nailing the multi-parters, right? I mean, these trilogies have been rock stellar, and their multi-parters just seem to be where they shine. So bring on more of those.
Yeah, it's almost like the three-parter, which you really see in modern or even back then TV, is probably the better way of doing things. Because usually it's like a two-parter, where it's like they have to kind of where it's a three-parter, they have time to like draw it out. They got the opening bit, like the big tension, like Empire episode 2 kind of thing, and then they bring it home on the third one. So that gives them a lot more time to really work it and make it solid. And so far, both their trilogies that they've done this season have been fantastic.
Yep.
Speaking of things that were fantastic, let's jump into the big, well, or not big, we'll see, review of season 2 here, since we're all done with the season now. So season 2 kind of started off a little hit or miss, as we'll get into, maybe with some of the lowlights here, but really improved quickly. We kind of got past most of the tropes from season 1. I say most, like when things get tough, various crew want to leave, i.e. Rigel. They're less infighting than they did, except in this time when Dargo's sniping at Gianna, and I guess she then runs off to Joffrey. But anyway, happy stuff now. But they're getting better at this. They're usually mostly using external characters to bounce off of and make the crew upset or mad or whatever, which is great. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I thought season 2 was, I guess, as good as or better than season 1.
Yeah, I'll agree. We were pretty clear in some of our dislikes, but yeah, it got up there. Um,
So let's, I guess, take a trip down memory lane. So let's do some of the lowlights first, because we have to end on a high note, right? So pretty much right early on in season 2, the taking the stone episode, that was just bad. Overall, bad, really bad.
you can't see me, but my hands are up over my head though.
That's the only thing that we've kept out of that thing that makes it any good. Otherwise, the whole thing is just ridiculous and stupid.
No, but you can't say taking the stone without my hands going up.
That's
So
right.
anyway,
So for those of you doing a rewatch of Farscape, other than what you've already listened to on this podcast, don't watch it. Just don't. Beware of Dog was another one. That was a kind of a clunker.
this
The
could almost be our skip. Don't skip.
Yeah, the parasite hunting Vork was just a little too silly, kind of not that good a Muppet puppet thing, and it wasn't really that convincing.
Yeah, no, skip.
Yeah, and then we had Dream a Little Dream. So great concept, a planet full of lawyers. Sounds great. Meh storyline. As we learned from the trivia, they were planning on doing that as the lead off for season two. I'm really glad they didn't do that because that would have driven people away in droves. I can't imagine. And we really did not need to see what happened to Moya and her team. Just get to the point where you rescued Crichton and Dargo who were floating around in space. That was the important bit from the cliffhanger.
Uh, Although I do expect that Crichton and Dargo would probably rather be floating in space than have to watch that episode. So
Yeah, pretty much. All right, so let's get into all the highlights of season two. And from the list here, there was quite a lot actually. So obviously we have Mind the Baby Part 2, which was the real season opener in my opinion. And it was a fantastic conclusion to that season one cliffhanger where Dargo and Crichton are floating around out in space, and wondering what's going on. So that was a great episode.
seconded. That was again, multi-parters are great. They're good at them, and this was no different.
Then we have our favorite possible, well, no, I shouldn't say that, but crackers don't matter. Nice crew versus crew since they're slowly being driven paranoid. And as you've probably heard from every podcast since that episode, we've beaten this title to death in about every podcast we've done since then.
So what you're saying is crackers do matter?
Exactly. Crackers matter very much.
Gotcha.
Crackers are important. Then we have the way we weren't, which is a great backstory episode where we learn that Aaron was on Moya before, and that Pilot was not the original pilot of Moya, and how he became joined to Moya. So I love a great backstory when they do it right, and they did this one spot on right.
Yep. The people should take notes. This is how you do a flashback.
Yep. Then in our recurring villain series, we have Picture If You Will, where Maldus slash Q tries once again to get his revenge on the crew.
I really hope he comes back again. That's a good villain.
Yep, that's a good one to bring back every now and then.
Maybe they'll have him for the actual finale, kind of like having Q come back at the end of whatever show he was on.
Yeah, that show.
Yeah.
That we don't compare this to at all.
Nope.
Next up on our list here, we have Out of Their Minds. This was great, where the crew kind of body swaps with each other several times. It came at the right point of the series where they learned how to act like each other and kind of be silly and whatever. So it was fantastic acting by everybody in that one.
Yep. And the characters stayed within type, so it was great. They acted as they would if they were in each other's bodies. It was a very enjoyable episode.
Then we have our first trilogy, the Look at the Princess trilogy. Great story, tons of plot threads moved along, and of course the big one that Erin finally admits to herself, not to Crichton though, but to herself, that she loves Crichton.
Yeah. If you can't tell by now, I like multi-parters. Great multi-parter.
Then we have one of my favorites of the season, Won't Get Fooled Again. Like, wow, man, this episode totally rocks, dude, as Gary Regal might say. Fantastic acting by everybody in this episode, and the premise was so unique and totally off the wall, and they sold it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was an enjoyable episode, yet the absolute most bonkers thing I think I saw this season.
Or pretty much from last season too, right? This is like way
Yeah,
out there.
I gotta say that's one of the most bonkers things I probably watched this year. So
Yeah.
any show, it was a good one.
And then the next episode, The Locket, which is another great episode that never really happened. It's a great what if episode. Yeah, like what if Aaron and Crichton lived out their lives with each other. So they got to really experience their true love for each other, which of course never happened, so they never knew about it. But it was still good.
So the locket doesn't matter.
That's right. Lockets don't matter. Then we have kind of like another unique kind of episode, The Ugly Truth. It was a great concept that shows the same events from each character's perspective. So that was, I think, pretty unique, and I think we've commented on the episode that I haven't really seen that before in most sci-fi or any other kind of real show.
Yeah, this one maybe not the best story, but the concept and the execution were, like you say, unique, and that gets it a star right there. So
Then, getting near the end of the season, we have the A Clockwork Nabari episode. That was amazing. We've learned really what Chiana's people are all about. The little way to take over the whole uncharted territories with the little virus. And that her brother, who we learn about first from the really bad episode that we should not name again, is alive and well, leading a resistance. So that was cool. And like I said back in the podcast, if this were made like in today's shortened seasons or whatever, this would be like the hook for like an entire season or more. I mean, there's just so much there that they could, go crazy with. So I hope they get back to it next season or season 4 or whatever.
agreed. I'm hoping that, like you say, if not next season, then maybe the arc for season 4 could be doing something with this because yeah, it's got a lot of potential there. It could be if it could be it's almost its own spinoff at this point.
Yeah, that's just too great a concept just to leave and never come back to. I hope they come back to it. And then finally, we end the season with the Liars, Guns, and Money trilogy, their second trilogy. So, you got some good plans, some not so good plans, plans come and go. Stark confuses everybody with all his plans, but they still work to some degree. And of course, we have lots of callbacks to season 1. So if you're paying attention to prior seasons, this is like trip down memory lane heaven and tons of action. So can't go wrong with that.
No, and we got, like you say, we got to see the mercenaries come back and from all their different exploits from different places, and we get the guy on a stick. We got all kind of cool stuff in this, so we're good to go. Yeah, it has it all.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't on a stick then, but yeah.
He was on a stick by the end.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll stick around.
Uh-huh. Yeah, just gotta put him in the freezer. I'm telling you. Then bring him out, thaw him out.
So a popsicle?
Jerkasicle. All right. So yeah. So pretty much that was the hits and misses of season 2. Anything I didn't think about, or anything that might have been a highlight that I didn't highlight?
No, I think we hit all the I won't say all, but yeah, obviously we could go back and pull some greats out of this, but I think that's a good summary of where we went with this season. It was a rough start that ended very well, and that picked up steam and left us with a great expectations for next season.
Yeah, I just went back and quickly counted, and that's like with trilogies and stuff. That's like 15 out of 22 episodes were highlights. So I mean, that's a great percentage for
That's really stellar.
for seasons back then being 22, 26 episodes. That's amazing.
Yep, and we could have a whole discussion about does that make for better odds than an 8 episode arc where one leaves you with fewer, right? I mean, we got a lot of good episodes, even with that many clunkers that we picked on a little bit. The number of episodes overall gives you a good season to have some highlights from.
I agree. All right, so next time we jump into the exciting season 3 kickoff. We hope, I really hope, with episode 1, Season of Death, ooh, and episode 2, Sons and Lovers. That's SUNS, like sun in the sky, not SONS. Like anyway,
Thank
I hope so.
goodness.
Well, hopefully, I don't know. Maybe. I don't, anyway, not gonna
Mm,
go there. Don't want to go there. Ew, gross. Don't go there. So playing our guessing game. So season of death. Well, let's see. Aaron's dead. The healer's dead. Stark maybe dies again. Who knows? I don't care. But yeah, I mean, it's you're coming off the cliffhanger, so you have to wrap up all these threads. So you gotta get Crichton, talking normal again. You gotta put his head back on, top his head back on. He can't speak gibberish for a while, although, like you said, that could be kind of hilarious. But no, that's not gonna work. Aaron's got to get revived. After that, we'll see. Who knows? As for sons and lovers, no idea. Uh, I know we have that Jothi Chiana love affair thing going. Ugh, no,
no, no,
no.
no.
I can't. I can't. No, I can't. So maybe that carries on. Oh, please no. But knowing Farscape, it's probably something completely different. And please, please, please be something completely different.
Or and just go with me on this. Maybe everybody dies and we get a whole new crew.
So that
Or
they all get dispersed. Is that...
yeah, or we get the same crew but reincarnated. I got nothing really. I'm just I got nothing. We'll see next time.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to forget one plot line and all the moving around of cast and writers and stuff, please forget that plot line. Just
What plot line?
yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine what plot line you're talking about. I don't know. I don't know what I was saying. I don't know what I was
Yeah.
thinking. I must have been delirious and seeing things I shouldn't have seen. I don't know. All right, so that is your homework for next time, which might be out a little later than normal, as one of us, me, is on vacation for a couple weeks. So, haha.
Mm.
Well, you get back to working. Haha.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's back to work today. Thanks for that.
Hey, I'm on vacation. I don't care anymore.
I know.
I'm gonna edit this thing, get it out, and on vacation next day. Bye. See ya. So that's your homework, and we'll see you when we see you. Goodbye.
Bye.